Hello there, my name is Razzo and I want to welcome you to my channel. I'm the kind of guy that loves making characters almost as much as I enjoy playing D&D. In this video series I plan to share some of my favorite builds that I have stored away. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. In the last few videos, Strength, Dex, Charisma, and Int were important parts to the builds. In an effort to switch things up, this one is going to focus on Wisdom. Druids and Clerics usually come to mind because that is their main spellcasting stat. That felt a little too easy for me, so this build is going to focus on a monk. Today I'm going to use the resources in D&D Beyond to show you the way of the Astral Stalker. Now that we have our browser open, we can get to work. First thing you want to do is scroll down to optional features and make sure that both of these are on. Next thing we're going to move on to race. We're going to start with a half elf. If you want to pick an elf, you can, but it's pretty important that you pick elf or half elf because we're going to need a feat later that requires us to be one of these two races. For our ability scores, we are going to use the point buy method, and we're going to start with a 10 in strength, a 15 in dexterity, a 13 in constitution, a 10 in intelligence, a 15 in wisdom, and an 8 in charisma. Now for our racial stats, we are going to put +2 in wisdom to bring us up to a 17, and then a +1 in dexterity to bring us up to a 16, and a +1 in constitution to bump that up to a 14. Wisdom is our main stat in this build. Dexterity is what comes second because that also helps our AC and our initiative. And the third most important stat is constitution because we're going to be up in melee. Now if you want to switch some of those 10s and 8s around, you can. I personally wouldn't dump strength to an 8 just because it doesn't feel right for a monk, but it could be done. Now for background, I'm going to go with Urchin. This will give us sleight of hand, stealth, and thieves tools. We've got a pretty decent dexterity, so we can act as a party scout. I feel like it goes really well with this Astral Stalker idea that I'm going for. For our starting class, we're going to go with Monk. In our starting proficiencies, we're going to pick Acrobatics and Athletics. It's very important to pick Athletics. It is going to be a very big part of our build later on. When it comes to the musical instrument or the artisan tools, pick your favorite. We also get some proficiencies from our race. My suggestion here is make sure to pick up perception, and survival is my other favorite pick for tracking. The other neat things we get from monk level 1 are unarmored defense, which as long as we're not wearing armor or using a shield, our AC is 10 plus our dexterity plus our wisdom modifier. So at this point we can be naked with a 16 AC. We also gain martial arts. This lets us use our dexterity instead of our strength for an attack and damage rolls with our unarmed strike or monk weapons. We can roll a d4 in place of a normal damage with your unarmed strike or monk weapon, and this die increases as we get more monk levels. When we use the attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on our turn, we can make one additional unarmed strike as a bonus action. For now, what I would be doing is using a quarterstaff in 2 hands, using our dexterity for now, and then as a bonus action, we can use an unarmed strike using our dexterity for attack and damage as well. Now before we move on to level 2, make sure to have these optional features selected if your DM allows you to play with them. I pretty much do this for every single class, unless they force me to switch out one feature for another, then read carefully and pick whichever one you like best. Moving on, we are going to pick a second level of Monk, which is going to give us a dedicated weapon. Let's just pick a weapon that we have and treat it as a monk weapon, but it has to follow all these rules. In this particular build, it's not a huge game changer. We also gain Ki, which is a very important resource to a monk, and these points come back every time we take a short or a long rest. For now, we can use Flurry of Blows, which lets us make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action when we take the attack action on our turn. We also get Patient Defense, which allows us to use the dodge action as a bonus action. The third option we have is Step of the Wind, which lets us spend 1 key point to take the disengage or the dash action as a bonus action on our turn. And our jump distance is doubled for that turn as well. Moving on to level 3, we get to pick our monastic tradition, and we are going to pick Way of the Astral Self. This lets us use our key points to summon a portion of our astral self. So as a bonus action, we can spend one key point to summon the arms of our astral self. And when we do so, each creature of our choice that we can see within 10 feet has to succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take force damage equal to 2 rolls of our martial arts die. Now our DC for this is based off our wisdom. This is what we're going to mainly be focusing on. For the next 10 minutes after we summon these arms, we can use them to make unarmed strikes. And they use our wisdom modifier in place of our strength modifier when making strength checks or strength saving throws. In addition, these arms also have a 5 feet greater reach than normal. So we can kind of stand behind our big tanky guy and punch the guy in front of him and run away if we need to. If that wasn't good enough, our damage type also changes to force instead of bludgeoning. And not a lot of things are resistant to force damage. We also get deflect missiles. As a reaction, we can catch a missile when we are hit by a range attack. When we do so, the damage from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus our dexterity modifier plus our monk level, which, we're not focusing too much on dexterity for now, but it's still good. If we reduce the damage to 0, we can catch the missile if it's small enough and throw it back. But I prefer to save my key points for something else. So at this level, my first round of combat would be run up, get in the middle of my enemies. As a bonus action, I would summon my astral arms and then make a punch. If you really, really need to get somewhere, you can use dash as your action and then summon your astral arms. Or if you want to get fancy, run up, summon your astral arms as your bonus action, and then use your action to disengage. Got a whole lot of options in your bag of tricks. Use whichever's most appropriate. For the following rounds, we can either make melee attacks using our wisdom, or we can try and trip an enemy using our wisdom because of our astral arms. We're also proficient in athletics, which makes it even easier for us to do this. And then, as our bonus action attack, we can attack with advantage. If you really need to pummel something down, you can use your flurry of blows as well. This isn't just for us, this also helps out our melee companions, as they will also have advantage against a prone target within 5 feet of them. One downside is if you have a lot of ranged party members, they have disadvantage on attacking a creature that is prone, so make sure to pick your targets wisely. Moving right along to level 4, we get Quickened Healing, which as an action we can spend 2 key points and roll a martial arts die and regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled plus your proficiency bonus. We don't have a lot of key points at this point, so I would only use this in dire situations. We also gain Slow Fall, which lets us use our reaction when we're falling to reduce any falling damage we would take by an amount equal to 5 times our monk level. We also get an ability score increase or a feat, and we are going to pick Elven Accuracy. This is why we chose Half Elf or Elf to begin with. This lets us increase our Wisdom by 1, bringing us up to an 18. And then whenever we have advantage on an attack roll using Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, we can re-roll 1 dice. So, we already said we want to try and knock things prone using our Wisdom, and then get advantage on that extra attack. Well, now we get to roll 3 d20s instead of 2. This gets even better the more attacks we get. Speaking of extra attack, we're going to bump up to monk level 5, which will give us extra attack, which lets us attack twice whenever we use the attack action on our turn. So, I would run up, try and make my target prone by tripping them, attack with my second attack with advantage, and then use my unarmed strike to attack a third time as my bonus action, or 2 times if I decide to use Flurry of Blows. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably be saving my key points because at this level we also get a fun thing called Stunning Strike. This lets us spend 1 key point to try and stun a creature if they fail a Constitution saving throw. Now this DC is based off our Wisdom, so now we are using our Wisdom for attacks. We're using our Wisdom for our DC on our Stunning Strike. We're using it to help us trip things with our athletics. It's all starting to come together the more and more we bump up this wisdom. Oh, I also forgot to mention wisdom helps boost our AC as well. Now we do also gain an optional class feature called focused aim. We miss on an attack roll, we can spend 1, 2, 3 key points to increase our attack roll by 2 for each of these key points we spend. This feels like a trap to me because we don't have a whole lot of key points. But if you know you're about to take a short rest and you absolutely have to get a hit off, then maybe this is worth it. Now that we're moving on to level 6, we are going to take a temporary break from Monk. We're going to multi-class into Ranger. Don't forget to select the optional class features because we're at least using the first two. Might even use this third one. Now the main reason we're picking Ranger at this level is for this optional class feature, Deft Explorer. Starts off by giving us 2 languages of our choice, which whatever, pick your favorite. But the big thing is it gives us expertise in a skill, and we're going to pick athletics. This lets us add our proficiency bonus twice instead of once whenever we make an athletics check. This makes it easier to trip things. I didn't mention it before, but you could also grapple things pretty well with this character if you want to go that route. This is going to focus off of our wisdom as long as we're using those astral arms. Another thing we pick up at this level is favorite foe, which replaces our favorite enemy feature, which we can use this ability proficiency bonus times per day. These reset on a long rest. And when we hit an enemy and deal damage to it, we can mark the target and deal an extra d4 damage once per turn. It's not great, but extra damage is always nice, especially when you're just already, picking up the class for other reasons already. I prefer this to the favorite enemy because it's more consistent. Lets me tack on that extra damage when I need to instead of just when the DM randomly tosses the correct enemy my way. Another small little benefit of this level is it gives us another proficiency in a skill. Pick your favorite here off of this ranger list. I'm probably going to go with animal handling or insight because those are wisdom based. But if you have found that your DM's asking for a lot of investigation checks or nature checks, you can pick one of those too. Really, it's not going to change the build a whole lot with this decision here. Moving on, we're going to take another level in Monk, and that's going to give us Key and Power Strikes, which lets us count our unarmed strikes as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks, which this doesn't really do a whole lot for us when we have our arms out because we're already dealing force damage. But if you get caught without your arms out and you're using your dexterity, at least you count them as magical. Our unarmored movement increases some more, and then we get Visage of the Astral Self. So as a bonus action, or part of the bonus action, we take to activate our astral arms. We can spend 1 key point to summon this visage for 10 minutes. We can pick Astral Sight, which lets us see in both normal and magical darkness. We can pick Wisdom of the Spirit, which lets us have advantage on Wisdom Insight and Charisma Intimidation checks. Or we can pick Word of the Spirit. Whenever we speak, you can direct your words to a creature of your choice that you can see within 60 feet, making it so only that creature can hear you. Alternatively, you can amplify your voice so that all creatures within 600 feet can hear you. I would personally go with Astral Sight to give us, darkness and magical darkness out to 120 feet. That's going to let us stalk around even better. But if you find an opportunity to use the other ones, go for it. Now for our next 2 levels, we are going to bump up Monk some more. That's going to give us Evasion. We're the subject to an area of effect that allows us to make a dexterity saving throw and take only half damage. You instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw, or half if you fail. We also gain Stillness of Mind, which lets us use our action to end one effect on ourselves that is causing us to be charmed or frightened. Then we get an ability score increase, and we are going to max out our Wisdom to 20. Moving right along, we're going to pick up 2 more levels of Ranger. And the first thing that's going to give us is a fighting style. The main one that comes to mind is Druidic Warrior. That's going to let us pick 2 cantrips. For one of them, I would definitely pick a range cantrip, either Thorn Whip or Produce Flame. That way, if we are unable to get into combat, we at least have something we can do that keys off our wisdom. 2 other options you can pick from are guidance if nobody in your party is casting guidance. And then you could also pick up Shillelagh as an emergency. If you run out of key points, you can cast Shillelagh on your quarterstaff and let it attack and do damage based off of your wisdom. Another option you can pick is blind fighting. Now we can already see in the dark and in magical darkness, but if you're paranoid and want to make sure you see everything, you have blind sense out to 10 feet, and this will include invisible creatures that we could not see otherwise. We're also going to pick up a archetype. We're going to take Gloomstalker, which is going to give us Dread Ambusher. This lets us add our wisdom to another aspect of our character. In this case, it's our initiative rolls. We get to add our dexterity and our wisdom to initiative rolls. We're going to be going fast. At the start of our first turn in each combat, our walking speed is increased by an additional 10, which lasts until the end of that turn. And if we take the attack action on that turn, we can make one additional melee attack as part of that action. And if that extra attack hits, it deals an extra 1d8 damage of the weapon's type, which would be force if we're using our astral arms. Gloomstalker also gives umbral sight, which increases our dark vision by another 30 feet. And the really cool thing about this is if somebody is only using their dark vision to see us, we are invisible to them. They cannot see us if all they are relying on is dark vision. Now, this also means we attack something that cannot see us, we have another source of advantage. That's another 3d20s whenever we roll the attack rolls, just because the poor sucker can't see it coming. The other thing we get from these levels of Ranger is spellcasting. This is all based off our wisdom modifier. If you take the optional class feature Primal Awareness, we learn additional spells. In this case, we'd get Speak with Animals. And with Gloomstalker, we would get Disguise Self. These would not count towards the number of Ranger spells that we know. Now, when it comes down to the selection of Ranger spells that we know, the usual suspects in most Ranger builds would be Zephyr Strike and Hunter's Mark. However, those require our bonus action to cast, and we really want to use our bonus action in combat to either summon our Astral Arms or do an extra attack of damage. And really, I don't think Hunter's Mark is going to outdamage what we can do because we're already doing bonus action damage. Zephyr Strike, once again, it allows us to not provoke stack our tunes. We can already do that with Step of the Wind. So what would I do if I was doing this? Especially since we only have 3 spells, I would pick Absorb Elements. Now this lets us reduce the damage we would take from acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage as a reaction. So it does not affect our action economy on our turn. Now we already have evasion, so if we succeed a saving throw, we take no damage. Don't need the spell. If we fail the saving throw, we still take half damage. Well, we can use this to reduce it even more. So we'd only taking a fourth of the damage if we fail the saving throw and decide to use one of our 3 spells per day. Now, in addition to that, we can also deal an extra, 1d6 of elemental damage based off whatever elemental damage we take, but that's not a huge big deal. The other spell I would probably pick up is Goodberry, because it allows us to heal 10 HP for every spell that we have. So let's say you don't use any of your absorb elements each day. Well, right before you go to bed, cast Goodberry 3 times, that's 30 health. That's more than 1 healing potion just because you didn't use your spells that day. So it brings a little bit of utility to something you're probably not going to use a whole lot in this build. Now you do have 1 extra spell to pick up. You really just pick your favorite. And here's where the build is a little weird. You have to decide how far this character is going to go in the campaign. If you're only going to go for a couple more levels, I'd say take 1 more level of Ranger so you can get an ability score increase and pump your dexterity up. After that, I continue stacking levels of Monk and bump up my dexterity every chance I get. Now, if you know that you're going to make it all the way to level 20, what I would probably do is take the rest of my levels in Monk, and you will have enough ability score increases to cap out your dexterity at 20, and then as a pseudo capstone, you will get Awakened Astral Self. which is pretty freaking awesome because it adds a +2 to your AC and it gives you an extra attack on your attack on your turn. So you'd be attacking 3 times with your attack action, or 4 times if it is your first round of combat. Now, the negative to this route is it takes a lot longer to get the dexterity up. In fact, you'll be level 19 by the time you get that dexterity up. If you take the 1 level of Ranger followed by the rest of levels of Monk, you will cap out your dexterity at 16. So there is a big difference there. But you would sacrifice the capstone from Monk. And that's why you need to pick whichever one fits best for your campaign. Anyways, I want to say thanks for hanging out and checking out my channel. I hope you visit more often. Don't forget to roll a nat 20 on the like and subscribe buttons. And if you want to watch my friends and I play some D&D, check out these playlists. See you next time.